Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to the Rainbow Rundown for the week. This will be airing on Monday, June 12th, 2023. We are smack dab in the middle of Pride Month, everybody. So happy Pride Month, everyone listening out there. I am your host, Scott Fullerton, for the Rainbow Rundown right here on the Left of Str8 Radio. We are recording this on Sunday night, June 11th. It is Tony night, so I'm going to get my happy butt off the mic here in a little bit and watch the Tonys. Y'all know how I love me a little Broadway. We have some history-setting nominations today with Alex Newell from Shucked and Jay Harrison Gee from Some Like It Hot in non-gender conforming, non-binary roles for Tony, and there's just some great productions out there this year. So I am looking forward to watching that in just a little bit, but let's get into the news and tell you what's been going on the last week or so that's caught my eye. See if you have a little interest for yourself and what's happening in the weeks ahead. So again, welcome to the Left of Str8 Show. My name is Scott Fullerton. I am your host. We're here every Monday with a little bit of Rainbow Rundown. On Tuesdays, we do our bonus section called 5 Questions With, which are fun, kind of 5 fun, quirky, sometimes serious questions with interviews we've done here on the Left of Str8 Show. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, we have lots of great Pride Month interviews coming at you. So be sure to look for that. So let's jump into it to the first story that's on my hot button. The Biden administration this week announced new actions to protect LGBTQ and communities from attacks on their rights and safety. This comes right before they held one of the biggest Pride events ever on the White House South Lawn yesterday at the White House in Washington, D.C. But the Biden administration is using its executive power to put together some amazing 3-part strategy to help enshrine some LGBTQ rights. Part 1 is from the Department of Homeland Security. They're going to partner with the Department of Justice and Health and Human Services to form a new LGBTQ plus community safety partnership. It's going to provide safety resources to local LGBTQ community organizations, help them prevent and respond to emergencies and threats. The initiative includes a focus on improving relations with the police, an acknowledgement of the mistreatment that LGBTQ plus in the community sometimes have faced with interactions with law enforcement, as well as a regular threat assessment for the community organizations from DHS. So that's part 1 of the 3-part prong. Second part is working with the Department of Health and Human Services to give them a lead role with initiatives to protect the health and safety of LGBTQ plus kids and their families, pointing to a nationwide mental health crisis among our LGBTQ youth. The administration will strengthen mental health resources, launch a new federal initiative to address LGBTQ youth homelessness, and moreover, the administration will release federal funding to support programs that help parents affirm their LGBTQ plus kids and advance new regulations to protect our LGBTQ youth in foster care. So 2 of our 3 prongs, and the third and final prong, the Department of Education will address the epidemic proportions right now of book bans targeting our LGBTQ plus themed contexts in schools and libraries. Book banning erodes democracy, it removes vital resources for student learning, and can contribute to the stigma and isolation that LGBTQ plus people and other communities face, the White House has said. The department's Office for Civil Rights will appoint a new coordinator to address the growing threat that book bans pose for the civil rights of students, and ensure local stakeholders understand how targeting specific communities like LGBTQ plus and communities of color among them may violate federal civil rights laws. So that's a three-part assessment that's going in that the White House is launching to help our LGBTQ community. We're having trouble getting Congress to act, especially with the Republican Congress, as you know. So there's only so much the president can do as far as executive orders and using the different branches in the federal government that he has some control over. So this is all happening. It was formally announced yesterday at the White House Pride celebration. It was the biggest one, as I said, ever done on the South Lawn. It was originally scheduled for Thursday, but they pushed it back due to poor air quality because of all the fires that are happening that have pushed a lot of things back in New York and Washington, D.C. So good on the White House for bringing these LGBTQ protections from, like I said, some main agencies, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, and the Department of Education, all working together and separately to do some great protections for our LGBTQ plus community. So great thing to hear during Pride Month. Very excited to share that with you. My second thing I wanted to talk about, we talked last week on the rundown about a conservative federal judge in Tennessee struck down the state's drag laws, banning drag performances to kids and other people, and finding it unconstitutional. Well, this week, a federal judge, this time in Florida, has struck down parts of Florida's laws and policies banning gender-affirming care. It's saying that the bans contradict widely accepted standards of medical care. The judge's decision only affects 3 of the 7 plaintiffs that were looking for this injunction, but it believes legal observers believe that the ruling could help restore health care for countless of trans Floridians of all ages. So it's another great milestone. Like I said, we talked about last week how the overturning of the drag ban in Tennessee should help the drag ban they place in Florida. Now the overturning of these trans and gender affirming care in Florida can help in domino effect to the rest of the states that are trying to pass these laws. I know Montana has passed one. There's 75 laws right now targeting LGBTQ plus and transgender people out of 400 proposed laws, but there's actually 75 that are being voted on right now. So this is a big thing. It was done by a U.S. District Court Judge Robert Hinkle. He was appointed in 1996 by President Bill Clinton, and he affirmed the existence of transgender identities, which they are trying to erase. He also said the defendants' families may pursue puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy, and their doctors may provide it without fear of any type of criminal or civil penalties placed upon them. He noted that puberty blockers and HRT are standard treatments for gender dysphoria, widely followed by well-trained clinicians and endorsed by the United States Department of Health and Human Services, as well as numerous major U.S. healthcare organizations. He also noted that no country in Europe or anywhere in the world, for that matter, entirely bans these treatments except for oppressive and anti-LGBTQ regimes. So this is great. 2 weeks in a row during Pride Month that we have some great federal judges, one Republican, one appointed by a Republican, one appointed by a Democrat, that have helped overturn some of these draconian laws to the LGBTQ community. And we have the White House and 3 federal departments creating more opportunities for our LGBTQ community. So it's really a blessing during Pride Month. I'm excited to do those first 2 stories for you. I think it's very important to get that stuff out there, and I'm glad we're able to share it with you. My next story is kind of ironic when you look at it. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the Republican House Speaker, never a fan of LGBTQ rights. He ended up unveiling the latest statue added to the U.S. Capitol yesterday, but he kind of neglected to mention that the statue of author Willa I'm not sure if it's Cather or Cather, we'll say Willa Cather, had a decades-long relationship with another woman. So Cather is known as one of America's greatest novelists. Willa Cather is a fitting addition to the gallery of great Americans, McCarthy said at this unveiling ceremony in National Statuary Hall. I don't know if you're familiar with National Statuary Hall, but each state is allowed to put 2 statues in this hall of noteworthy people from their state. So this is a second one from Montana, replacing one of their previous statues there. They do rotate them through from time to time. But Kevin McCarthy was the one that did this. It's replacing Julius Sterling, who was a newspaper editor and politician, but he supported slavery, so he's had some controversy, and they're replacing his statue in there right now. Of course, McCarthy's own history of supporting anti-LGBTQ legislation made it a very ironic choice because he has never stood up for our rights. And especially with this being in Pride Month, it's just a little sweetly ironic that he's dedicating a statue to an LGBT woman, an LGBT woman. It's very, the Winona author shared a deep, intimate, and enduring romantic relationship with a woman named Edith Lewis in a testament to love and literary collaboration. The relationship between Cather and Lewis, their steadfast companion, began in the early 1900s and lasted until Cather's death in 1947. The bond, they say, transcended mere friendship and marked a significant aspect of Cather's personal and professional life. So we have an out lesbian in the National Statuary Hall in Congress that was dedicated by no one else but our anti-LGBT representative from California and current Speaker of the House, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. So, ironic twist of news there that I thought was interesting. Another big news item that crossed the desk for everyone Thursday, Pat Robertson, televangelist Pat Robertson, founder of the 700 Club, passed away this week. And his death was getting mocked quite a bit in LGBTQ circles. But, I just don't feel that bad about it. Pat Robertson, for years, was a voice against LGBT. He had even said that it's okay to celebrate, he once said, that AIDS was God's way of weeding his garden. So he had no problem calling to death people with AIDS, saying that God was weeding his garden. He also wasn't above feeling joy at the death of others. So at 93 years old, the founder of the 700 Club, Pat Robertson, he ran for president once. He was a leading voice against LGBTQ for decades and decades. And I mean, he did things like he advised one mom to cut off her 13-year-old son's internet access after he was caught looking at gay content online. Even suggested this is proof that her son was being sexually abused for watching gay things on the internet. He actively worked against education about safer sex through the organization, the Christian Coalition. He used his television platform to oppose the use of condoms, saying that the latex barrier robs a sexual act of intimacy, even if it can save people's lives. Now, as gay men, we have talked about not wanting to wear condoms for a long time. Of course, we were the first when AIDS came about to really demand respect for ourselves and our partners by wearing condoms. With the advent of PrEP, they have not been as necessary as before, but PrEP only goes against HIV. It does not go against other sexually transmitted diseases. So if you are in a non-committed relationship and an active sexual partner with multiple partners, a condom is still the safest way to avoid any sexually transmitted diseases. In fact, I'm going to have a couple of guests at the end of Pride Month that's going to talk all about U equals U, undetected equals untransmittable. We're going to have a couple friends on to talk about that because I think it's important when we talk about in Pride Month everything from sexual health to our marches and our besides Pride being safety out there. So Pat Robertson is gone on Thursday and won't be forgotten anytime soon for a lot of his anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. And I, for one, am not going to feel guilty about things that were said about him. He was a very vile person to a lot of people in our community. So it is what it is. Also on Thursday, we had a double whammy Thursday. And speaking of the LGBTQ internet going crazy, along with the death of Pat Robertson, which happened in the morning of Thursday, in the afternoon of Thursday, we got the second indictment of former President Donald J. Trump. You see me smiling a bit here? This was brought on by the special counsel looking into the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And originally, it was reported Thursday evening there was a 7-count indictment against the president, ex-president. When it was unsealed Friday, it turned out to be 38-count indictment against the former president, and really some damning evidence. I mean, everyone deserves their day in court, but there is supposedly tapes where he says, yeah, this is a classified document. If I was president still, I could declassify it, but I can't anymore. So he admits knowing he has no power to declassify after the fact. There are pictures of just stacks upon stacks of boxes of classified documents in a shower, in a bathroom, on a stage, in a banquet room of Mar-a-Lago where the president stays down in Florida. Just really sloppy record keeping of these classified documents, and the accounting of which says there was nuclear documents on our nuclear capabilities. There was war readiness on us and some of our allies and enemies that were talked about. So pretty serious charges. So on Thursday, it was a little bit of gay Christmas for Pat Robertson and the president getting indicted on the same day, but very sad for our country still overall. We're trying to get past this Trump presidency. We had 4 years of muck and it just isn't going away. And something like this happens, you think it's going to sink the ship, but his followers get even more entrenched and his approval rating goes up somehow. I don't understand it. It's frustrating, it's maddening, and it doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. All right, let's see what else we have going on for our next story here. It is June, and we are celebrating Pride Month, but typically summer is a time for vacations. And there was a great story I saw giving the 15 biggest travel destinations for our LGBTQ community. These are 15 of the hottest spots over the last year that they are assuming is going to stay hot throughout the coming year. It was put together through Mr. B&B. Mr. B&B is a gay Airbnb vacation and destination rental service. Of course, there's quite a few great ones out there. There's Fab Stays, FABSTAYZ. I'm going to be having the founder of them on the show very soon. There's Kelly and Greg Travel, formerly of Rosie's Travel, from Rosie O'Donnell's ex-partner, Kelly Carpenter. And her partner, Greg, has a great travel company out there. There's just a bunch of amazing travel companies out there. And there's a great bear travel company, the one that I lost the interview for earlier this year. The interview just didn't come out when I was first starting out. But just to give you an idea of the 15 most recommended and most traveled to destinations for LGBTQ community that were both LGBTQ friendly and deemed overall safe. Started with Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Madrid, Spain, Atlanta, Georgia, Berlin, Germany, San Diego, California, Los Angeles, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Barcelona, Spain, London, UK, of course, Paris in France, Palm Springs, California, one of my very favorite travel destinations, Wilton Manors, Florida, Chicago, Illinois, New York, New York, and finally making the top 15, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So if you're looking for some travel destinations this season or for the upcoming year, all 15 of those are deemed safe, very LGBTQ friendly, and were one of those popular destinations in the past year. So you might want to definitely look into those if you're looking for a little getaway this summer or coming year. I love to travel. There's a lot of great travel gays on social media. You can find them on TikTok, on Instagram, and they always have some great tips and tours. So be sure to look into that as well. I wish I had the time and energy to travel as much as I want to. All right, next story here on the Rainbow Rundown. Candace Owens, if you don't know her, she is an African-American woman who takes great pleasure in trying to take down the LGBTQ community. She constantly misgenders trans people. She refuses to use their gender pronouns. She calls them their dead names. She calls them by their opposite gender they identify from. And she's just a hateful person. I just like Candace Owens a lot. But a good thing happened this week. Candace Owens, who is one of the more hateful right-wing influencers, she's famous for saying a lot of shocking things that I don't agree with, but her transphobic comments have finally cost her some money. And she's found out that it's not free speech over on YouTube. YouTube platform demonetized a lot of her videos. She makes lots of money on these things, along with her other social media platforms. But they demonetized the content on her account that included misgendering, dead naming, and other derogatory and hateful content. There's no public policy on misgendering within the company in general, but it does violate the company's monetization policy, the network resorts. So they gave her basically an option. They said you can remove the pronouns for all of your videos, or they are going to demonetize anything she spoke about transgender, misnaming, dead naming, and mischaracterizing that. So she lost potentially a lot of money there. Hasn't said exactly what she's doing yet. She did make an announcement about it, that what was happening. So we'll see what she does with that. But I'm always happy when a transphobe, especially, but anyone that marginalizes our LGBTQ plus community gets taken down a peg. And Candace Owens is not going to be making money off misgendering, dead naming, and taking shots at our trans community, at least on YouTube. Then finally this week, like I said, I'm not going to go over too much news this week, but there's some things that caught my hot button. And I'll end with two kind of interesting stories to me. We've talked a lot in the past couple of weeks about all the backlash for big companies celebrating Pride, the backlash that Anheuser-Busch got just for sending one person, Dylan Mulvaney, a personalized Bud Light can. They lost over 25% of their revenue in May. Target has had to get armed guards outside because of some clothing for adults that's being lied to about for children, but adult clothing they put out for Pride. So it's nice to see two major chains getting some positive recognition and driving the conservatives crazy and getting their hair on fire in the middle of Pride Month here. Cracker Barrel chain was widely known for being homophobic back in the day. If you're not familiar with Cracker Barrel, it's primarily a roadside kind of a restaurant / old country store that's very big in the Midwest, South, Southeast areas. There's one right down the street from my house. You can't travel half the highways and byways of the Midwest and South without running into a Cracker Barrel on the side of the freeway or highway. They had a lot of trouble back in the 90s, early 90s. They fired several gay workers. They openly discriminated against our LGBTQ employees. And they were protesting because they created a policy promoting heterosexual values at the time. Well, of course, our LGBTQ plus activists went nuts at the time, doing lots of boycotts at the time. And Cracker Barrel has been slowly changing their tune since the 90s. In fact, they have been pride friendly for the past 3 or 4 years. They scored an 80 out of 100 in the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index. If you're not familiar with that, the Human Rights Campaign rates all these big companies. Every year it gives them a scale up to 100 points. And 80 is not that bad. 100 is best for LGBTQ rights. And Cracker Barrel has got over 80 the last 4 years. But they did a Facebook post this past week where they gave a big shout out to Pride Month. Got a lot of backlash from the conservative community, hair on fire all over the place. The company's based in Lebanon, Tennessee. So we're talking deep south there where it's based out of. And I think that what the post said on Facebook is, we're excited to celebrate Pride Month with all our employees and our guests. Everyone is always welcome at our table and our rainbow rocker. Happy Pride. And Cracker Barrel is known for having these rocking chairs they sell out in front on their front porch, so to speak. And they showed a couple in the post with rainbow pride colors on it, rainbow rockers. So it just had conservatives blowing a gasket last week, which I love. And also last week, conservatives were losing it over Chick-fil-A, another one that's been very anti-LGBT in the past. Conservatives went nuts last week over a relatively old post. Back in 2021, the company talked about giving Eric McReynolds, making him vice president of DEI, which stands for their Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program at Chick-fil-A. So he was given this title back in 2021, and somehow it just surfaced or caught the attention of these conservatives, and their hair is on fire last week. Oh my gosh, we lost Chick-fil-A as well. They have gone woke on us. So two companies that have been notoriously anti-LGBTQ in the past have slowly been turning themselves around, and I can't be happier during Pride Month. So if you stop going to Cracker Barrel for a while, head on back out there. Grandpa's breakfast is one of my favorite, and good old country fixins. And Chick-fil-A has their diversity, equity, and inclusion program now. They're still not the best in the world, but give them a break. I'm just not a Chick-fil-A because I refuse to pay that price for a chicken sandwich that's just been sitting in brine and salt for 2 days to make it really tender and soft. If you don't know how Chick-fil-A is so soft and tender, because they sit it in salt for like 24 hours before they cook it. Dirty little secret of Chick-fil-A. But anyway, that's it. That's our Rainbow Rundown for the week. I hope you enjoyed some of these news articles, at least. I enjoyed sharing them with you. Every Monday, we'll share a couple things that happened during the week. I have some Left of Str8 news that I'm excited about. Starting this week, I have some new interns coming aboard Left of Str8. So you're going to see a lot of new friendly faces on the Left of Str8 show. They'll be posting things on our social media. They'll be here on some of our shows. They'll be creating their own podcasts as part of their project. So if you see one of the Left of Str8 interns around, they have a new Instagram page called Left of Str8 Radio Interns. Look for that and follow them, please. That's Left of Str8 Radio Interns. Give them a follow because they're starting at 0 followers, and they'll be looking for people to follow. And they'll be doing the Left of Str8 Radio Twitter page, and you can go to Left of Str8 Radio at Twitter and follow them there. So welcome to the new interns. I'll be showing them off in the weeks to come here, and I'm very excited to have them aboard. I'm excited to add a couple more interviews. I talked last week about all the interviews I have coming for Pride Month. We'll be doing 3 interviews a week for the rest of Pride Month. Some great authors, singers, musicians, entertainment, producers, directors, actors. It's going to be a great time. I just did an interview Friday with the fantastic E.J. Michaels. If you're not familiar with them, he went to the semifinal knockout rounds on The Voice this year. He was on both Team Blake for Blake Shelton, and then was stolen by Team Niall for Niall Horan from One Direction. Made it through the knockout rounds, and he has a brand new music being put out right now, As I Am. Wonderful piece of music. So look for that as one of my interviews coming up. We also have a brand new website coming for Left of Str8 Radio. Also a new Patreon page where you can support us in the future. And I talked about it a bit. You're going to be hearing the next couple weeks. July 3rd is our 8-year anniversary here on the Left of Str8 Show. Left of Str8 Show was founded on July 3rd, 2018. Did my very first show. The first 5 years was audio-only podcasting. And my very first guest on July 3rd, it was 5 days after marriage equality became the law of the land. And my very first 2 interviews was Kelly McCracken, a fantastic singer-songwriter in a band out of here, Ohio. But her and her partner was one of the plaintiffs in the Marriage Equality Act. And she was one of my first guests. And my other first guest was Ben Patrick Johnson, who is the most amazing voice you've ever heard. He was the voice for TVs and movies forever. And they were my first 2 guests. And I just found out today they're going to be coming back. And on July 8th, it's going to be a reunion. And we're going to have my very first guests on my 8-year anniversary. And that's coming July 3rd. So be sure to look for that. As always, please follow us on social media. On Instagram and Twitter, it's at Left of Str8, LEFTOFSTR, the number 8. leftofstr8radio.com. The new website will be up soon. And I appreciate you listening to us. If it's Monday, it's Rainbow Rundown right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Have a great week, everybody. I'm off to see the Tonys. We hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstr8radio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.